Most people think a lack of discipline means something is wrong with them, that they are weak, lazy, flawed, as if discipline were a personality trait distributed unevenly at birth. Some blessed with it, others condemned without it. But this belief is deeply misleading, because discipline, as most people define it, clashes directly with how the human brain is built. And this is not motivational exaggeration. It is biology. Your brain did not evolve to chase long-term ambitions, abstract dreams, or self-improvement plans. It evolved to survive. For hundreds of thousands of years, survival meant conserving energy, avoiding unnecessary risk, and pursuing immediate rewards. Save calories. Seek pleasure quickly. Avoid discomfort. That was the winning strategy. So when you sit on the couch instead of going to the gym, your brain is not sabotaging you. It is optimizing for survival. When you scroll social media instead of writing, studying, or building something meaningful, your brain is not broken. It is choosing the fastest dopamine available. And from an evolutionary standpoint, that makes perfect sense. The conflict begins because modern life demands something entirely different. To succeed today, you must delay gratification, work toward distant rewards, repeat uncomfortable actions consistently. You are expected to operate like a focused machine. But inside your skull is a hunter-gatherer brain designed for short-term survival. So when you attempt to force discipline purely through willpower, you are essentially trying to overpower millions of years of evolutionary wiring with a motivational quote. And it works, briefly. Then you crash. Then you blame yourself. Then the cycle repeats. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, pointed out something crucial. Discipline is not about force. It is about design. The people who appear incredibly disciplined are rarely relying on superhuman motivation. They have simply structured their environment so that the desired behavior becomes easier than the alternative. They do not fight their brain. They outsmart it. In the next few minutes, we will dismantle the illusion that discipline is about character. We will expose the invisible mistakes that keep you stuck, and we will rebuild your approach in a way that works with your biology instead of against it. If you have ever felt ashamed for procrastinating, if you have ever doubted yourself because you just couldn't stick to it, this is not about judging you. It is about correcting the strategy, because the problem was never your character, it was your method. Discipline sounds simple. Want it badly enough. Stay focused. Resist temptation. But when you understand how your brain functions, this advice collapses. Your brain does not care about your future goals. It cares about immediate comfort. It tracks energy usage constantly. For most of human history, resources were scarce. Food was uncertain. Threats were real. Energy was precious. In that context, prioritizing immediate reward was rational. Eating now was safer than planning for later. Resting conserved energy. Avoiding effort reduced risk. Your neural circuits still carry that logic. So when you attempt to act like a hyper-productive modern professional without adjusting your environment, you create an internal war. And in most wars between biology and willpower, biology wins, which means the solution is not to become harder on yourself, it is to become smarter. And that is where real discipline begins. Sleeping longer meant conserving energy. Avoiding effort meant staying ready for real danger. Taking the easiest path increased survival odds, and that ancient operating system still runs inside you. When your alarm goes off at 6 a.m. for the gym, your brain does not interpret that as self-improvement. It interprets it as unnecessary energy expenditure, loss of comfort, potential stress. When you sit down to work on a demanding project, your brain instantly suggests something else. Just check your phone for a minute. Watch something short. Take a quick break first. Because on social media, pleasure is immediate, predictable, effortless, guaranteed. But writing, studying, training, those require effort now for a reward later. And your brain dislikes delayed rewards. Here is the crucial detail. Your brain is not rational. It is efficient. It does not calculate what is best for your future self. It selects what costs the least energy in the present moment. Neuroscientists call this cognitive ease, the tendency to favor what feels simple, familiar, and frictionless. And most of this happens before you even become aware of the choice. So the real issue is not weak willpower. It is a design mismatch. Your biology wants immediate comfort. You want long-term growth. If those two forces are not aligned, you experience constant internal tension. You feel lazy, frustrated, inconsistent. James Clear summarizes this bluntly. Motivation is overrated. Environment is decisive. If you constantly rely on willpower, it means your environment is working against you, and willpower is exhaustible. Over time, fatigue wins. When you are tired, stressed, or distracted, your brain defaults to autopilot. An autopilot always selects the easiest available option. So if you want change, the first move is not try harder. It is understand the system. And once you understand that your brain resists forced discipline, a new question emerges. What if the real problem is not your character, but your environment? Let's look at the actual battlefield. Most people believe self-control is a kind of internal muscle, something you train through sheer determination. But the truth is uncomfortable. Self-control collapses in poorly designed surroundings. Imagine this. You decide to start exercising. You feel inspired, ready, committed. But in the morning, your workout clothes are buried in a drawer. Your shoes are hidden. It is cold, dark. Meanwhile, your couch is within arm's reach. Your phone is already in your hand. Notifications are waiting. Now the choice is no longer moral. It is architectural. One option is visible, comfortable, and immediate. The other requires friction. And your brain chooses frictionless. That is the core problem. You are trying to change behavior without changing context. You want new outcomes while preserving old triggers. This is where a powerful idea enters: choice architecture. Human behavior is shaped by what is visible, accessible, and easy. Not by intention alone, not by moral strength, by design. James Clear highlights studies where simple environmental shifts produced massive behavior changes. In one cafeteria experiment, merely placing water bottles at eye level and moving soda slightly out of reach significantly increased water consumption. No lectures, no bans, no motivational speeches. Just repositioning. That is behavioral engineering. The lesson is simple but profound. If you want to change your behavior, change what is easy. Make the desired action obvious. Make the undesired action inconvenient. Your brain will follow the path you build for it, not the one you preach to it. What changed in the cafeteria experiment? Not the people, not their willpower, the environment. The healthy option became the easiest option. And when the easiest option aligns with what is good for you, the brain stops fighting. It simply follows. Now, imagine applying that principle to your own life. Want to read more? Leave the book open on your pillow, not hidden in a drawer. Want to reduce phone distraction? Turn off notifications? Move distracting apps off your home screen? Use blockers. Physically place your phone out of reach. Want to wake up and train? Lay your workout clothes beside your bed the night before. Put your shoes where your feet will land. You are not relying on motivation. You are setting a trap, not against yourself, but against friction. This is the shift most people never make. Discipline is not built on heroic effort. It is built on intelligent preparation. Disciplined individuals are not morally superior. They are strategically structured. They design their spaces, their rituals, their triggers. They understand that when the environment is aligned, good behavior becomes almost automatic. They do not wait to feel like it. They remove the need to feel like it. If the right action requires less energy than the wrong one, your brain will choose it. So stop treating discipline as a personality trait. Start treating it as engineering. Engineer your environment the way an architect designs a building, because a behavior that feels difficult today can become automatic tomorrow, if it is anchored properly. But what if you could go even further? What if, instead of merely reducing friction, you could hijack the habits your brain already performs every day? This is where the strategy becomes powerful. So far, you have learned two essential truths. Your brain avoids unnecessary effort. Your environment shapes your actions. Now comes the practical mechanism that connects both. Habit stacking. Your brain runs on loops. Cue, routine, reward. These loops are already active, constantly. You wake up, you brush your teeth. You sit down, you check your phone. You enter the kitchen, you make coffee. You do not debate these actions. They are automatic. Habit stacking uses that automation to your advantage. Instead of building a new habit from nothing, which requires high resistance, you attach it to an existing one. You piggyback on a behavior that is already wired. For example, after brushing your teeth, meditate for 2 minutes. After pouring your coffee, read 1 page. After locking the front door, repeat your daily focus statement. After sitting at your desk, write 1 sentence. You are not creating something from scratch. You are extending a neural pathway that already exists. This dramatically reduces resistance, because the cue is already embedded. And when the cue fires, the new behavior follows more easily. The genius of habit stacking is this. You stop asking your brain to invent a new routine. You simply expand the one it already trusts. And once repeated consistently, the new action fuses into the loop. Effort decreases. Consistency increases. What once required willpower becomes identity. You no longer try to be disciplined. You become someone who naturally does the thing. And that is the real trick. Not forcing the brain, but rewiring it, one small, intelligently stacked action at a time. When you stack habits correctly, something subtle happens. The brain begins to link them. The old routine becomes a trigger for the new one. You are not forcing discipline. You are grafting it onto existing wiring. This creates neural coupling. And that is powerful, because the hardest part of any action is not continuing. It is starting. Initiation demands energy. It requires decision. And decision requires mental fuel. But once movement begins, inertia shifts in your favor. Momentum takes over. Habit stacking reduces the cost of starting. And momentum sustains consistency far better than motivation ever could. But this method must be applied intelligently. You cannot attach anything to everything. There are rules. First, keep it small, 2 minutes or less. Meditate for 2 minutes, not 20. Write 1 sentence, not a chapter. Do 5 push-ups, not a full workout. Second, make it specific. Read 1 page. Write 1 paragraph. Stretch for 60 seconds. Not vague intentions like be healthier or study more. Third, make it immediate. The new habit must follow the old one without delay. After brushing, meditate. After coffee, read. After sitting at your desk, write. No gap. If you follow this structure, you are laying down mental tracks, and over time, the behavior becomes automatic. You no longer debate, you execute. The real victory is this. The action happens before doubt, before laziness whispers, before rationalization builds its case. And here is what most people underestimate. These tiny stacks compound. 1 page a day becomes 30 pages a month. 2 minutes daily becomes hours across a year. 5 push-ups become strength. Small behaviors, connected consistently, form identity. You stop trying to be disciplined. You become someone who acts. But here is the question. If environment design and habit stacking are so effective, why do people still procrastinate? Why do we delay, even when we know what to do? The answer is uncomfortable. Procrastination is not laziness. It is poor design. When a task feels overwhelming, unclear, emotionally uncomfortable, or disconnected from reward, your brain resists it. Not because you lack ambition, but because the structure is wrong. James Clear outlines 4 invisible laws of behavior change. When your habits violate these laws, they fail, almost automatically, and most people never realize they are breaking them. So instead of blaming yourself, we need to analyze the system. But before we go deeper, let's address something important. The word procrastination has become a label of shame. People say, "I'm lazy. I have no discipline. I just can't get my life together." And that narrative is dangerous, because once you believe you are the problem, you stop fixing the structure. You attack your character instead of your environment. And that guarantees repetition. So let's dismantle this myth. You are not lazy. You are responding logically to a poorly engineered setup. And in the next part, we will break down exactly why your habits fail and how to rebuild them using the 4 hidden laws that govern behavior. Because once you understand the system, procrastination stops being a personal flaw. It becomes a design problem you can solve. According to James Clear, procrastination is not a flaw in your character. It is feedback, a signal that your system is poorly structured. When you procrastinate, it is not because you lack desire. It is because the action you want to take is too costly in the current setup. Too much effort, too little immediate reward, too much friction. And your brain, built for efficiency, simply chooses the better trade-off. Remember, your brain prioritizes immediate payoff. Studying demands focus, delayed gratification, and abstract future benefits. Scrolling YouTube offers instant stimulation with zero effort. From a neurological perspective, the decision is not moral, it is logical. That is why discipline fails when it depends only on intention. This is where the 4 laws of behavior change become essential. James Clear describes them as the foundational principles for making habits sustainable. They are simple, but extremely powerful. 1. Make it obvious. If the habit is out of sight, it will be out of mind. Visibility drives action. What you constantly see becomes easier to execute. 2. Make it attractive. The brain moves toward anticipated pleasure. Pair the habit with something enjoyable. Reduce the emotional resistance. 3. Make it easy. Friction kills execution. The smaller the starting step, the higher the probability of action. Lower the barrier until saying no feels irrational. 4. Make it satisfying. The brain repeats what feels rewarding. Without a sense of completion, the habit does not stick. Now let's compare 2 scenarios. Imagine someone wants to study every night. Current setup, books buried in a backpack. Desk cluttered, TV on, phone nearby. They plan to study for 1 full hour. No structure, no tracking, no reward. What happens? They reach for their phone. They scroll. They feel guilty. They promise to try harder tomorrow. Nothing changes. Now, apply the 4 laws. The book is already open on the desk. Obvious. They prepare a favorite drink and put on instrumental music. Attractive. They commit to 5 minutes only. Easy. After finishing, they mark progress and allow themselves 1 episode of a show. Satisfying. Notice what changed. Not the person. The structure. Same brain, same motivation level, different design. When the behavior is engineered correctly, action becomes natural. This is the shift most people never make. They try to upgrade themselves instead of upgrading the system around them. And once you understand this, something liberating happens. You stop asking, "What is wrong with me?" and start asking, "How can I redesign this?" Because discipline is not a personality trait. It is architecture, and architecture can be built. But here is the final, and perhaps most important insight. Once these laws are applied consistently, identity begins to shift. You no longer see yourself as someone who tries to study. You become someone who studies daily. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to work out. You become someone who trains. Small, repeated wins reshape self-perception, and self-perception reshapes behavior. That is how discipline becomes effortless, not through force, but through intelligent alignment between biology and environment. Now the real question is, if discipline can be engineered, what kind of system are you going to build? The difference was never the person. It was the design. When the system is poorly built, discipline feels impossible. When the system is well built, discipline feels natural. Procrastination, in this light, stops being a mystery. It becomes feedback. Every time you delay something, pause and ask, is this action obvious? Is it even slightly attractive? Is it easy to start? Does it provide any immediate reward? If one of those answers is no, you are not facing a character flaw. You are facing a structural flaw. And here is what surprises most people. When you apply these laws consistently, procrastination does not need to be defeated. It dissolves. You do not push yourself into action. Action becomes the default. But at this point, a common objection appears. Fine, I understand the system, but I still don't like these tasks. You still dislike waking up early. You still find studying boring. You still resist training. So here is the perspective shift that changes everything. You do not need to love discipline. You need to make it inevitable. Modern productivity culture often sells a seductive myth. Fall in love with the process. Love the grind. Do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. It sounds inspiring, but it is misleading. And for someone struggling, it becomes discouraging. Because if you wake up unmotivated, you assume something is wrong with you. Here is the truth. Highly consistent people do not wake up every morning excited to do hard things. They feel resistance too. They feel fatigue too. The difference is not emotional. It is structural. They built a system where the right action happens even when desire is absent. Let's revisit the example of running in the morning. You may have excellent reasons, health, confidence, energy, but on most days, you will not feel like it. Your bed will feel warm. The weather will feel inconvenient. Your mind will invent perfectly reasonable excuses. And without structure, the habit dies again. Now imagine a different setup. Before sleeping, you place your running shoes and clothes next to the bed. Your alarm is across the room, forcing you to stand. The moment you silence it, an energetic playlist starts automatically. A friend is waiting for you at 6:30. You already know the route. Breakfast is prepared. In this scenario, running is not suddenly pleasurable. It is still effort, but you have engineered momentum. You removed friction. You increased accountability. You reduced decision points. The choice was made the night before. Desire is no longer required. This is the hidden truth. Disciplined people pre-decide. They eliminate the need for emotional negotiation. They act before doubt has time to speak. And that is the real trick. Not loving the routine, but designing it so well that not doing it feels harder than doing it. Discipline is not passion, it is inevitability. And once you understand that, something powerful happens. You stop waiting to feel ready. You start building systems that move you forward regardless of mood. Because mood fluctuates. Design endures. They don't depend on desire. They build systems that function even when desire disappears. And this is the shift most people never make. Your goal is not to fall in love with discipline. Your goal is to make essential behaviors so embedded, so automatic, that doing them requires less energy than avoiding them. That is the difference between living in the world of motivation and living in the world of systems. In the world of motivation, everything depends on how you feel, your mood, your energy, your enthusiasm that day. And moods fluctuate. In the world of systems, action becomes default, not heroic, not dramatic, simply automatic. James Clear summarizes it brutally. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Your future will not be shaped by how ambitious your goals are. It will be shaped by what you do daily. And the more automated those daily actions become, the less you rely on motivation, that unstable, unreliable resource people keep chasing. That is why saying, "I don't like routine," or "I hate waking up early," is irrelevant. No one needs to love discomfort. You only need to structure it so well that it becomes part of who you are. And that brings us to the deepest level of this entire conversation. Discipline is not the final objective. It is a reflection of identity. Real transformation does not happen when you force yourself to behave differently. It happens when you begin to see yourself differently. After everything we've discussed, one truth should be clear. Discipline is not a mystical trait. It is a side effect, a byproduct of alignment between environment, system, and identity. When these three align, disciplined behavior becomes normal. But here is the structural truth most people miss. No habit will last if your identity remains unchanged. James Clear explains that the deepest layer of behavior change is not about outcomes. It is about identity, not what you want to achieve, but who you decide to become. Identity shapes habits. Habits reinforce identity. It is a loop. If you see yourself as someone bad at consistency, your actions will confirm that belief. If you see yourself as someone disciplined, your actions will gradually align with that narrative. Every small action is a vote. Every time you train when you don't feel like it, you cast a vote. Every time you read instead of scrolling, you cast a vote. Every time you show up for 2 minutes, even imperfectly, you cast a vote. And the vote says, "I am the kind of person who follows through." This is more powerful than any motivational speech, because you are no longer trying to behave differently. You are constructing a new identity. And when identity shifts, behavior follows naturally. Real discipline, then, is not an achievement. It is a reflection of someone who stopped fighting their brain and started designing around it. Someone who realized that victory does not come from force. It comes from structure. So now you stand at a simple but powerful crossroads. You can continue blaming yourself for lacking willpower, or you can redesign your system. You can continue chasing motivation, or you can build inevitability. You can continue identifying as someone who struggles, or you can start voting today for someone different. Because discipline was never about being stronger, it was about being smarter. And once you understand that, the game changes forever. Or you can begin today, not with a burst of motivation, not with a dramatic resolution, but with structure. You can start designing an environment that makes the right action easier than the wrong one. You can start stacking habits that remove the need for negotiation. You can start building an identity that supports your future instead of sabotaging it. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop punishing yourself for not having endless willpower. You were never meant to rely on motivation alone. You were meant to build systems. You do not need perfection. You need consistency. And consistency does not come from intensity. It comes from intelligent design, repeated daily. Let the system carry the weight. Let small actions accumulate. Let identity shift quietly in the background. Now I want you to pause and decide something concrete. What is the first habit you will redesign today? Not next week, not when you feel inspired. Today, write it down, because the act of writing is not symbolic. It is a vote for the person you are becoming. And if this perspective shifted how you see discipline, stay with the conversation. Because here, we are not chasing motivation. We are building structure, and structure changes everything.